Knights wore symbols because, in their world, identity meant everything. A coat of arms wasn't just decoration. It told others who you were, who you served, and what you stood for. But that same visibility could also turn deadly. On a chaotic battlefield, those bright colors made you stand out to enemies looking for ransom or revenge. In politics, the wrong symbol could brand you as a traitor overnight. What began as a mark of honor often became a dangerous sign that could cost a knight his life. Number 1. The deadly meaning behind heraldic symbols. In the Middle Ages, a knight's colors were more than decoration. A shield, surcoat, and banner turned into a moving identity card that anyone on a noisy field could read at a glance. Lions, crosses, eagles, chevrons, and fleurs de lis carried ideas people understood without words. Colors mattered too. Gold hinted at generosity or rank. Red suggested courage. Blue pointed to loyalty or truth. These meanings were not only poetic. They signaled allegiance to a lord, a dynasty, or a cause, and that is where danger began. Wearing the wrong device in the wrong place could invite an attack before a single question was asked. In crowded melees, vision collapsed into flashes of cloth and metal. Men looked for a shape or a color group to tell friend from foe. Small differences that seemed clear in a calm hall vanished in mud and smoke. A lion with one tail could look like a lion with two. A diagonal band could be mistaken for a horizontal one when a shield tilted. That moment of doubt could end a life. Symbols also carried politics. A badge tied you to a household and its rivalries. If a lord fell out of favor, his retainers' liveries became marks of suspicion. Refusing to wear a badge looked like disloyalty. Continuing to wear it after shifting sides looked like treason. In some regions, officials policed arms and kept rolls to prevent theft of designs. Passing yourself off as another house could bring harsh punishment. False arms tricked enemies at gates and musters, so captors treated impostors as spies. Even truthful display made you a target. Well-known arms shouted wealth and rank. Capturing a famous knight meant ransom, so enemies aimed to wound and grab. Lesser men who wore grand colors without right attracted hostility from both sides. Religious signs added another layer. Crosses and saints marked piety, yet they could also brand you as an invader or heretic depending on the audience. On crusade, a device meant one thing to allies and another to local eyes. In border wars, neighbors borrowed each other's palettes, sometimes by design, to sow confusion. Knights adapted. Some covered shields while traveling. Others used field badges on jackets so their companies could sort themselves quickly. A few dulled bright paint with dirt when arrows started to fall. Chivalry praised open display, but survival rewarded caution. In that tension, the emblem on a shield worked like a double-edged blade. It promised honor and recognition. It also drew arrows, accusations, and the attention of men who wanted a ransom or revenge. Number 2. The battlefield confusion and deadly mistakes. When we think about medieval battles, it's easy to imagine perfectly organized armies and clear banners fluttering above the noise. But the reality was the complete opposite. The battlefield was loud, smoky, and filled with chaos. Knights fought in heavy armor that limited their vision, and communication relied on shouting through the noise of clashing metal and screaming horses. In that kind of confusion, a simple mistake could decide who lived or died. Knights used symbols and colors on shields, armor, and flags to tell who was who. The idea was simple. Recognize your allies quickly and avoid striking the wrong person. But during real battles, that system often failed. When rain turned bright colors into brown stains, or when banners tore in the wind, it became almost impossible to tell friend from enemy. Even small differences in symbols could cause fatal confusion. A red lion facing right might belong to one lord, while a red lion facing left could belong to his enemy. In the chaos of combat, those details blurred together. Many historical accounts describe friendly troops attacking each other just because they misread a symbol. At the Battle of Barnet in 1471, thick fog made soldiers from the same side fight one another for hours. They couldn't see clearly enough to tell the difference between their own banners and the enemy's. During the 100 Years' War, there were dozens of similar stories where knights and men-at-arms cut down their own allies by accident. Once swords started swinging, there was no time to double-check whose crest was painted on the shield in front of you. Commanders tried to fix this problem by introducing simpler field signs. Soldiers might wear colored strips of cloth or badges showing their lord's emblem. The English, for example, often used red crosses, while the French sometimes used white. It helped a little, but it was far from perfect. Badges fell off, armor got covered in mud, and sunlight could make one color look like another. In some cases, mercenaries or spies copied these signs on purpose to sneak behind enemy lines. When they were caught, punishment was brutal, usually immediate execution for treason. The confusion didn't just come from the symbols themselves. It came from the speed of the fight and the noise surrounding it. Imagine hundreds of men moving through smoke and dust, each trying to stay alive. Orders got lost in the noise. Drums, horns, and shouting mixed together. One wrong turn could send a group of soldiers straight into the enemy's formation. Even the most disciplined knights sometimes relied on instinct rather than recognition. Because of this, some knights tried to hide their symbols when things turned desperate. Covering a shield with cloth or dirt could prevent being mistaken for the wrong side, or from being singled out as a valuable target. On the other hand, well-known knights who proudly displayed their family crests often became magnets for enemy attention. Everyone knew that capturing a famous knight meant a big ransom. So even though heraldic symbols were meant to bring order, they sometimes caused the exact opposite: chaos, betrayal, and unnecessary death. In the end, medieval battles showed how fragile human systems could be under pressure. Heraldic symbols were meant to create clarity, but the brutal reality of combat turned them into a deadly gamble. One moment of confusion could erase years of loyalty and training, leaving soldiers fighting the very people they came to protect. Number 3. The power, politics, and betrayal behind symbols. A knight's emblem did more than decorate a shield. It announced a web of loyalties that could lift a career or end it overnight. Coats of arms tied a man to a lineage, but badges and liveries tied him to a living lord who paid his retinue and expected visible support. Wearing a badge in a town square or at a muster said who provided protection and whose quarrels were now your own. That public signal brought status and work, yet it also painted a target when rival houses fought for influence. Late medieval rulers understood how dangerous that system could become, so they tried to limit private armies by controlling badges and the giving of livery. The rules worked on paper, but powerful magnates still handed out tokens, jackets, and brooches because those items bound followers more tightly than oaths alone. In that climate, a symbol became a test of obedience. Refusing to wear it in tense moments looked like disloyalty. Wearing it after a shift in politics looked like open defiance. Betrayal often hid in small design choices. Knights could quarter arms after a marriage to show a new alliance, or add a mark to signal cadet branches. A clever change could tell one audience that an agreement was made, while telling another audience that old loyalties still mattered. Rivals watched these moves closely. A pattern that hinted at a claim to land or office could spark lawsuits, feuds, or sudden violence. Heralds tried to police misuse, yet in civil wars, the referees lost authority, and accusations of false arms turned into charges of treason. Reputation and ransom made the politics even sharper. Famous emblems drew enemy attention because a captured noble brought profit, so households trained men to shield a lord's banner and keep it upright. If that banner fell, followers lost heart and enemies pressed harder. When a leader switched sides, the meaning of his badge flipped in a day. Old comrades saw a traitor. New allies saw a tool. Either way, his followers paid the price if they were caught wearing yesterday's colors. Cities added a different pressure. Urban elites ran militias and guilds that had their own devices, and they could resent a lord's badge parading through their streets. Tournaments turned symbols into public theater, where rivals mocked each other with colors and emblems, and a misjudged display could start fights that rolled into real conflict. In short, heraldry built social trust when the world was stable, but in times of strain, The same designs broadcast stakes, exposed loyalties, and gave enemies a map to punish the wrong choice. Number 4. The symbolism of honor and the price of recognition. Knights wore symbols because honor in their world was not just a feeling. It was a public identity that had to be seen and remembered. A coat of arms told people who your family was, who you served, and what you had earned. It let allies spot you in a crowd, and it fixed your name to your actions. Tournaments, parades, and church processions turned those colors into a kind of living record. When a banner moved through a town, it said that the house behind it was present and accountable. That visibility built trust and opened doors at court. It also shaped how stories were told after a battle, because chroniclers and heralds could connect a deed to a specific device. Noble families guarded that link with care, since their future marriages, land claims, and pensions often depended on past recognition. The same visibility came with real risk. A famous emblem stood out on a field, and enemies knew it promised ransom if the owner was taken alive. That made the bearer a target for arrows and rushes. Household guards circled their lord's banner to keep it upright, because a fallen standard could cause panic as quickly as a rumor. Lesser men faced a different danger if they showed arms above their station. Wearing a device you had no right to use could read as fraud or provocation. Captors treated impostors harshly, and rivals took offense if they thought a newcomer was reaching for claims that were not his.